chapter 4. Still striving and enduring. Hebrew chapter 4, and I'm starting at verse 1. It says, let us therefore fear, lest a promise being left us of entering into rest, any of you should seem to come short of. So we want to strive. We want to be at the utmost might and highest that we possibly be, as being ambassadors, as being men that was called to enter into this rest. Promises that the Most High had left us. And I also want to get another precept. This is 2 Corinthians. Let's see, 2 Corinthians. In verse 2 Corinthians chapter 2 and verse 16, it says, to the one we are the Savior of death unto death, and to the other the Savior of life unto life. And who is suffering for these things? We are not as many which will look upon the Most High God, but as of sincerity, but as of Most High God, in the sight of Most High God, speak we in Mashiach Yahushua. You know, for some, hey, this truth might be, you know, entertainment. For some, this truth might be, you know, a spectacle. You know, something that they can laugh at. You know, for some, this truth may be, you know, our escape. You know, to hear it, well done, my good and faithful servant. So this is 2 Corinthians chapter 3. Do we begin again to commend ourselves? Or need we, as some others, epistles of condemnation to you, or letters of condemnation from us? Ye are our epistle written in our hearts, known and read of all men. For as much as ye are manifestly declared to be the epistle of Christ, ministered by us, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living Most High God, not in tables of stone, but in fleshly tables of the heart. And such trust have we through Christ to God inward. Not that we are sufficient of ourselves to think anything of ourselves, but our sufficiency is of God, who also had made us able ministers of the New Testament, not of the letter, but of the Spirit. For the letter killeth, but the Spirit giveth life. Peace and blessings to y'all. So we gotta live according to the covenant. The agreement that the Most High has made with us. We get Deuteronomy chapter 4. This is Deuteronomy chapter 4. In verse 5, it says, behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as the Lord Yahweh, my Most High God, commanded me, that ye should do so in the land whether ye go to possess it. Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. So we got to continue to uphold that. We can't forget that, you know. We can't just be in the time period of saying, well, this is a new age, this is a new thing. No, we got to continue to uphold the things that we just commanded thousands of years ago, you know, generations ago, you know. So we got to continue to strive to enter into that rest, you know. At least we be found unworthy, you know, with no confidence, no hope. This is Hebrews chapter 4 and verse 2. It says, for unto us was the gospel preached, as well as unto them, but the word preached did not profit them, not being mixed with faith in them that heard it. For we which have believed do enter into rest, as he said, as I have sworn in my wrath, if they shall enter into my rest, although the works were finished from the foundation of the world. For he spake in a certain place of the seventh day of the wise. Y'all got a minute for Bible verse? Y'all believe in God? So-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are God's chosen people. You got to come back to him in spirit and truth, living in the last days. It says, chapter 4, verse 5. And in this place again, if they shall enter into my rest, seeing therefore it remaineth that some must enter therein, and they to whom it was first preached enter not in because of unbelief. And some, they're not going to believe. You know, they're gonna wax faint. You know, they're gonna find out sooner or later that this wasn't a game. This wasn't a religion. This was something that was commanded from the foundation at the beginning of time. Now this is Matthew chapter 24, in verse 36. It reads, it says, "But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but the Father only." How y'all doing, family? We living in the last days. You gotta come back to God. You gotta come back to the Messiah.
Already committed.
We gotta know what God requires of us too.
Oh yeah.
As his people. Not black people, but Israelites.
For sure.
Descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Peace, God.
So Matthew chapter 24 and verse 36 again, it says, "But of the day, of that day and hour, knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be." So this is the same exact thing that we dealt with before, you know. Time and time again, same thing, falling short, you know. Idols, idolatry, covetousness, rebellion, sorcery, witchcraft, you know, murderers, whoremongers, you know, pimping our sisters and brothers out, selling our brothers and sisters out, even selling ourselves out, same thing, you know, forgot, you know, and the Lord also spoke of that in Hebrews, you know, lest you forget and the Lord smite you. Now let me get this in Hebrews chapter 10 and verse 10 and I'm gonna start at verse 29. I'm gonna start at verse 28. Hebrews chapter 10 and verse 28. It says, "He that despised Moses' law died without mercy under 2 or 3 witnesses. So how much sore punishment suppose ye? Shall ye be thought worthy who have trodden underfoot the Son of Most High God, and counted the blood of the covenant wherewith he was sanctified, an unholy thing, and had done despite unto the Spirit of grace? For we know him that had said, Vengeance belonging unto me, I will recompense, said the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Shah. And again, the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Shah shall judge his people." So the Most High is going to judge us, like it says in 1 Peter 4:17. Judgment must begin at the house of the saints, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Hebrews 10 and 31, it says, "It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. But call to remembrance the former days in which, after ye were illuminated, ye endured a great fight of affliction." I got a minute for a Bible verse. God's chosen people got to come back, living in the last days. It says, Hebrews 10 and 31 again, "It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God." And that's something a lot of people don't fear, because they got so many idols. They got so many, you know, carnal things that they have. Now I want to get this in the future combined, but escape me. Lord willing to come back. I want to get this in I think that's the book of Second Timothy. Let's see, it might be First Timothy. Might be Hebrews. Let me see, Hebrews. This is Hebrews chapter 3. And I'm gonna start at verse 12. Because a lot of people, they forgot the Most High, you know. Because, hey, it wasn't just based only upon us. It also had a hand to do with, you know, the nations, the heathen, you know. Hebrews chapter 3 and verse 12, it says, take heed, brethren, lest there be in any of you an evil heart of unbelief in departing from the living God. So a lot of our people forgot and departed from the Most High God. So-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are God's chosen, the Israelites, living in the last days. It says again, Hebrews 3 and 12, take heed, brethren, lest there be in any of you an evil heart of unbelief. You know, so that's an evil thing to not believe in Yahweh, to not believe in Yahweh Shah. You know, it's depart from you. You know. Now let me get this in Psalms real quick. Psalms 105. So-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are God's chosen, possibly who your forefathers had lynched hundreds of years ago. Now this is Psalms 105. I also want to get another piece up. Psalms, even 73. Psalms 105. I got a minute for a Bible verse. I believe in God. Believe in God.
Oh yeah.
Believe in Christ. Psalms 105 and verse 33. It says, because they provoked his spirit so that he spake unadvisedly with his lips, they did not destroy the nations concerning whom the Lord Yahweh commanded them, but were mingled among the heathen and learned their works. And they served their idols, which were a snare unto them. So anything outside of the Most High, Yahweh Shah, is a snare to us. Anything outside of the law, statutes, and commandments, and outside of faith, and outside of doing the works of the Most High is a snare to us. These nations are a snare to us. You know, their idols are a snare to us. So-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are God's chosen, living in the last days. The Most High is surely about to judge this place. It says, again, Psalms 105. This one, the chapter is beautiful. Psalms 105. And verse 35 again, it says, but were mingled among the heathen and learned their works, and they served their idols, which were a snare unto them. Yea, they sacrificed their sons and their daughters unto devils, and shed innocent blood, even the blood of their sons and of their daughters, whom they sacrificed unto the idols of Canaan. And the land was polluted with blood. And what did the Most High tell us about blood? Let me get this, Genesis chapter 9. You know, and it's very important. You know, blood is very important. You know, because we accept Yahweh Shah and what he's done, which he had to shed his blood for the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And we used to shed the animal's blood back when we was atonement, you know, going before the temple, bringing the animals that was without spot and blemish to the priest. Now this is Genesis chapter 9, and I'm going to start at verse 4. It says, but flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, shall ye not eat. And surely, Genesis 9 and 5, and surely your blood of your lives will I require at the hand of every beast, will I require it, and at the hand of man, at the hand of every man's brother will I require the life of man. Whoso sheddeth man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed. For in the image of the Most High God made the man. So that's why blood is so important. Let me get this in Hebrews chapter 5. What's going on now? You got a minute for a Bible verse? Living in the last days. We got to come back to the Most High God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are Israelites, living in the last days. You know, we got a lot of rebellion in there. So this is Hebrews chapter 4 and verse 14. It says, seeing then that we have a great high priest that is passed into the heavens, Yahweh Shah, the Son of Most High God, let us hold fast our profession. For we have not a high priest which cannot be touched with the feeling of our infirmities. I got a minute for a Bible verse. We're living in the last days. So-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are God's chosen, the Israelites. Got to come back to the Most High God in spirit and truth. It says, cannot be touched with the feeling of our infirmities, but was in all points tempted, like as we are, yet without sin. Let us therefore come boldly into the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in the time of need. And that's Yahweh Shah, you know, way beyond animals that were sprinkled with blood, you know. Hebrews chapter 9 and verse 19, it says, for when Moses had spoken every precept to all the people, according to the law, he took the blood of calves and of goats with water and scarlet wool, and hyssop, and sprinkle both the book and all the people, saying, This is the blood of the testament, which Most High God had enjoined unto you. Moreover, he sprinkled with the blood both the tabernacle and all the vessels of the ministry. And almost all things are by the law purged with blood, and without shedding of blood is no remission. And that's something we used to do. You know, now we have our shot and Mashiach. Let me get this in Galatians. Galatians chapter 3 and verse 22. It says, But the Spirit had concluded all understanding that the promise by faith of Yahweh Shah and Mashiach might be given to them that believe. But before faith came, we were kept under the law, shut up unto the faith which should afterwards be revealed. And that faith is Yahweh Shah. You know, verse 24, Galatians 3 and 24, it says, Wherefore the law was our schoolmaster to bring us unto Mashiach Christ, that we might be justified by faith. You know, so now, you know, animal sacrifice is done away with. You know, so now we have sacrifices according to faith. You know, our works. You know, pure conscience. You know, now this is 1 Peter chapter 3. And I'm gonna start at verse 20. 1 Peter chapter 3 and verse 20. 1 Peter chapter 3, and I'm gonna start at verse 20, and it reads. It says, Which sometime were disobedient, when once the long suffering of Most High God waited in the days of Noah while the ark was preparing, wherein few, that is, 8 souls, were saved by water. The like figure whereunto even baptism doeth also now save us, not the putting away of the filth of the flesh, but the answer of the good conscience toward Most High God by the resurrection of Yahweh Shah and Mashiach. So this is what it's about. It's about renewing our minds, putting off the old ways, the old man and woman and child, coming back to the Most High. Now I want to get this real quick in 1 Peter. Because the Most High, he baptized us as well. 1 Peter chapter 4. Let's start at verse 12. 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 12. It says, Beloved, think it not strange concerning the fiery trial which is to try you, as though some strange thing happened unto you, but rejoice inasmuch as ye are partakers of the Mashiach suffering. So we're going to suffer the same things the Lord has suffered. Some may be crucified in the flesh, martyrs, you know, for this word, you know, as in the days to come, you know, the wicked is going to more so look for those who are fearing the Lord, abiding, turning the world upside down by his word, you know, condemning the wicked, you know, condemning the sorcery of Babylon the Great, you know, speaking on matters, and exposing lies and false doctrines, iconoclasm. 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 12. Beloved, think it not strange concerning the fiery trial which is to try you. So the saints will be tried in these last days. And that's what the Most High deals with. He deals with chastisement. We get, let's go back to Hebrews. Let's go back to Hebrews. Hebrews. I'm going to get this in Hebrews. Chapter 12. Hebrews chapter 12, and I'm going to start at verse 7. It says, let's start at verse 6. Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 6, it says, For whom the Lord Yahweh Shah loveth, he chasteneth, and scourge every son whom he receiveth. If ye endure chastening, Most High God dealing with you as with sons. For what son is he whom the Father chasteneth not? But if ye be without chastisement, whereof all are partakers, then are ye bastards and not sons? Furthermore, we have had fathers of our flesh which corrected us, and we gave them reverence. Shall we not want much more? Rather be subjection unto the Father of spirits and live. So-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are God's chosen. Got to come back to him in spirit and truth. We're living in the last days. So the Most High, he deals with chastisement. He deals with correction. You know, that's one thing a lot of people don't like to deal with. They don't like to deal with correction. Let me get this in Job. I believe this is Job 28. Look at Job chapter 28. I believe it's the 28th verse. I know. Job 28 and 28. It says, And unto man he said, behold, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom, and to depart from evil is understanding. So once we get correct, you know, we should depart from the error that we used to go off. You know, we should depart from the wrong that we've done. You know, that's what true repentance is. And I also wanted to get some rat in their pockets. Also wanted to get some rat. I think it's chapter 32, so rat chapter 32. And I'm gonna start at verse 16. Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha chapter 32, verse 16. It says, they that fear the Lord, Yahweh shall find judges, and shall kindle justice as a light. A sinful man will not be reproved, meaning correct, you know, but finding an excuse according to his will. So we got to be corrected in these last days, you know. And that's it. That's what Yahweh told him. He said, you don't know, you don't understand the scriptures. In Matthew the 22nd chapter, ye do err not knowing the scriptures, you know. And it's also linking up with Hosea. Let me get Hosea, you know. Now this is Hosea chapter 4, classifies. And I'm gonna start at verse 4, Hosea chapter 4, verse 4, it says, yet let no man strive, nor reprove another, for thy people are as they that strive with the priests. Therefore shalt thou fall in the day, and the prophet also shall fall with thee in the night, and I will destroy thy mother. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me. Seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy Most High God, I will also forget thy children. As they will increase, so they sinned against me. Therefore will I change their glory into shame. They eat up the sin of my people, and they set their heart on their iniquity. And there shall be like people, like priests, and I will punish them for their ways and reward them their doings. For they shall eat and not have enough. They shall commit whoredom and shall not increase, because they have left off to take heed to the Lord Yahweh. Whoredom and wine and new wine take away the heart. So the Most High, he said we're going to be destroyed, you know, for a lack of knowledge. So let's go back to 1 Peter. 1 Peter chapter 1 in these last days, the correction of the Most High, you know, being corrected. Being corrected, that's what we're dealing with in these last days. Now, let me get this in Deuteronomy. Look at Deuteronomy. Chapter 7, and I'm starting at verse 12. Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 12, and it reads, it says, wherefore it shall come to pass, if you hearken to these judgments and keep and do them, that the Lord Yahweh thy Most High God shall keep unto thee the covenant and the mercy which he swore unto thy fathers, and he will love thee and bless thee and multiply thee. He will also bless the fruit of thy womb and the fruit of thy land, thy corn and thy wine and thine oil, the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep in the land, which he swore unto thy father to give thee. Thou shalt be blessed above all people. There shall not be male or female barren among you, or among your cattle. And the Lord Yahweh will take away from thee all sickness, and will put none of the evil diseases of Egypt, which thou knowest, upon thee, but will lay them upon all them that hate thee. You know, and that's what labor to enter into that rest is going to bring us, you know, having things being taken off of us and putting upon these heathens, you know, the diseases, you know, the plagues, you know, the strongholds, you know, these demons, you know. So the Lord said in Deuteronomy 7:16, and thou shalt consume all the people, which the Lord thy God shall deliver thee. Thine eyes shall have no pity upon them, neither shalt thou serve their gods, for they will be a snare unto thee. If thou shalt slay, so like if thou shalt say in thy heart, these nations are more than I, how can I dispose them? You know, and why would you say that these nations are more mightier than I? When you have Yahweh, when you have the angels, you know, when you have all the Most High could possibly give them. You know, thou shalt, Deuteronomy 7:18, thou shalt not be afraid of them, but shalt well remember what the Lord Yahweh thy Most High God did unto Pharaoh and unto all Egypt, the great temptations which thy eyes saw, and the signs, and the wonders, and the mighty hand, and the stretched out arm whereby the Lord Yahweh thy Most High God brought thee out. So shall the Lord Yahweh thy Most High God do unto all the people of whom thou art afraid. Moreover, the Lord Yahweh thy Most High God will send the hornet among them until they that are left and hide themselves from thee be destroyed. Thou shalt not be affrighted at them, for the Lord thy God is among you, a mighty and terrible Most High God. And that's what he is. You know. Now, Paul also said, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are God's chosen. Got to come back to him in spirit and truth. Yahweh and Yahweh Shah. We're living in the last days. Now, Paul said, hey, the terror of the Lord. A lot of people, they don't know, you know, that the Most High is the one that we should be fearing. Not the one that's controlling, you know, the laws, legislations, and telling the government what to do. Now this is 2 Corinthians chapter 5, and I'm gonna start at verse 2 Corinthians chapter 5. Corinthians chapter 5 and verse 11. I'm going to start at verse 10. It says, for we must all appear before the judgment seat of Hamashiach, that everyone may receive the things done in his body according to that he had done, whether it be good or bad. And that's what we all going to have to deal with. You know, whether we want to, you know, say it or not. You know, because a lot of people, they don't want to deal with that. You know, this ain't our earthly father or our earthly mother, you know, knowing that they might be sick or knowing a loved one might pass away, you know, this is different. This is a higher matter, a very serious matter. You know, we all gonna have to appear before their judgment seat. Every man, woman, and child, you know. Verse 11, 2 Corinthians 5 and 11, it says, knowing therefore the terror of the Most High, you know, Yahweh Shemel Shah, we persuade men, but we are made manifest unto Most High God, and our trust also are made manifest in your conscience. So we have to really think about this. You know, we really have to meditate ourselves, our minds on the words of life. You know, because the Most High ain't nothing to play with. You know, he gonna chastise us because he loves us. You know, he dealt with us. You know, for a long period of time. Now, I also wanted to get you know, we have to really think about this. Also wanted to get 1 Samuel chapter 2. This is the book of 1 Samuel chapter 2, and I'm going to start at verse 5. It's like I'm going to start at verse 6. It says that the Lord Yahweh kill it and make it alive. He bring it down to the grave and bring it up. The Lord Yahweh make it poor and make it rich. He bring it low and lift it up. And he's the one that can do that. He's mighty. You know, what's going on? How you feeling?
Amazing.
Amazing. Hey, because why? You got a God that's going to protect you. You know, the Israelites, so-called black, Hispanics, and Native Americans. You know, amazing. This place is finished. So I'm going to read this again. 2 Corinthians chapter 5 and verse 11. Knowing therefore the terror of the Lord, we persuade men, but we are made manifest unto Most High God. How you doing, brother?
What's going on, man?
You know your nationality according to the Bible?
I'm Muslim.
Do you believe in God?
I believe in a God.
You believe in a God? Do you? Now, the God you believe in, what is that God give you as far as your inheritance, as far as what he did for your ancestors. Now, speaking in context of that, there's many gods on earth. You know, somebody can make money they God, somebody can make clothes they God. But when I say God, I'm talking about a creator. I'm talking about a power. You know, I'm talking about the creator of the heavens and earth.
Yeah.
You know, so speaking on the Bible as well, God, he wrote the Bible. You know, he allows certain men, holy men, to scribe, you know, and document everything that he's done.
Yeah.
You know, because anybody that's that mightiful and powerful and omnipotent and has that preeminence, he can do these things. He can control animals, he can control the wind, the rain, the moon, the stars, the firmament, you know. So I'm gonna read you something real quick. This is the Holy Bible. You know, this is Exodus chapter 3. And I'm gonna start at verse 6. It says, moreover, he said, I am the God most high of thy father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. So this God that I'm speaking on, this God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is actually the God that made a covenant with a race of people on this earth.
Yeah.
And this race of people has many things happen to them, as far as enslavement, persecution, rape, robbery, murder, lynching, that still goes on today, that went on in the 1600s, 17, 18, 1900s, you know. And these people right here, because we just read Exodus 3 and 6, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now you said you believe in a God. You know, now one thing the white man has done, he has played his role. And his role was to punish these people. And why was that? I'm about to read it to you. With the Judges. You know, now we can talk about later on, you know, your opinions and views on the Bible. You know, we can talk about that. You know, I would love to get in there. You know, but I just want to show you the deception and the deceiving that have went on in this country. You know, because we've been told that we are black. We've been told that, you know, we're monkey savages. You know, but what I am telling you, according to the truth of the Bible, because I'm an Israelite. You know, and what that means is that my forefathers had a covenant that was made. And that covenant transpired from the true living God, the creator of the heavens and earth. You know, so he made a covenant with my fathers, and I have to uphold that as well, because this is my life. This is not religion. You know, this Bible only belongs to the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans that are so-called that. You know, that's why we was given commandments by God, statutes, laws, and judgments. Thou shalt not kill. Honor your mother and your father. Thou shalt not steal. You know, and things that we should eat, things that we shouldn't eat. You know, so what this is, I'm gonna read it to you. Now this is Judges. This is what happened to us as a nation of people. It's the book of Judges. Now I understand you got your little one out here, and you know it's kind of cold.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna take this time out and speed this up for you.
Take your time.
Now this is Judges chapter 2 and verse 11. And it says, "And the children of Israel." Who is the children of Israel? The children of Israel are the descendants of Jacob. And so what does that mean? Descendants of Jacob. Now there was something that went on. So we're gonna come back to Judges chapter 2. Now this is Genesis. I'm gonna go back to Genesis. Read this for you. Now this is Genesis. Now there was an actual man that walked the earth thousands of years ago. You know, roughly around over you know 5,000 years ago. You know, and only God, the Most High, the Creator of the heavens and earth, can allow such events to still be known and still have the memorial and remembrance. Because that's what He promised. He promised that the Holy Spirit, His Spirit, will resonate in us and remind us and teach us what we haven't been taught. You know, because your mama might teach you things, your dad might teach you things, you might go to a school, they might teach you things, you might go to a church, they might teach you things, but a lot of this teaching, it doesn't have the truth in it.
Yeah,
you know, that's why the Spirit of God will allow you to go back to things that you didn't really know about, things that you may question, is this true or not? You know, so Jacob has 12 sons that actually lived on the earth.
Yes.
You know, and we're gonna touch on this later. But going to this right here, this is Genesis chapter 32. You know, I'm gonna start at verse 11. I'm gonna start at verse 24. It says, and Jacob was left alone, and this is after he had dealt with his brother. His brother, you know, I'm gonna speak on matters because when I explain one thing, I gotta explain it in the full context.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do it as short of a time period as I possibly can. He had a brother named Esau, and so Esau later on, after events took place by their father, you know, his father Jacob, you know, his father Isaac gave him a promise. Gave Isaac a promise. I mean, Isaac gave Jacob a promise, gave Esau a promise.
Yeah.
So Esau was upset about what Jacob received. And so later on he approached him, you know, and after he approached him, this is the event that took place. Jacob had an encounter with an angel, you know. So I'm gonna read this to you. Genesis 32 and 24. And Jacob was left alone, and there would wrestle a man with him until the breaking of the day. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint, and he wrestled with him. And he said, let me go, for the day breaketh. And he said, I will not let thee go, except thou bless me. And he said unto him, what is thy name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince hast thou power with God and with men, and has prevailed. So he wrestled with this angel. And so this angel blessed him. Now what do so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans deal with all the time? Just like Jacob wrestled with this angel, what do we gotta wrestle with? We wrestle with these spirits. They're trying to oppress us, you know. Now, dealing with everything in this society, paying taxes, you know, getting shot down in the street, you know, and not receiving justice about it, getting stopped by the police, racially profiling us, you know. We fit the description, we might got pulled over, they might try to plant some weed on your son, you know. That goes on in many parts of this earth. But one thing about this, we also got to deal with spiritual matters too. Depression, anxiety, you know. We got spirits trying to overtake you, overthrow you, oppress you. And that's the same thing that Jacob dealt with. And so this angel blessed him and told him, your name is going to be no longer Jacob, but Israel, because you have power with God. Yeah. And so that's one thing that we associate with ourselves as being Israelites. We have power with the Most High God. You know.
Yeah, definitely. So
that's why I asked you, you know, what is your belief? Because our nationality is not black. It's not Christian. Our nationality as a so-called Negro man, Hispanic, Native American man, woman, and child, we are the Israelites. And God made a covenant with us. You know. So Judges, going back to Judges chapter 2, verse 11. It says, and the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and served Baalim. So one thing that we're not supposed to do is serve other gods. You know, it's only one true and living God. But other gods, they're just idols. Money, idol. Clothes, idol. Cars, idol. You know. But one true power that controls everything. We're supposed to serve him, worship him only. You know. And then you also got the Son of Man, which we call Christ. You know, which is not a white man. You know, just to put that out there. Not a white man. That's what white people want us to think. Why? Because they teach white supremacy. You know, which they don't want us to know that we're God's chosen. So they want to put something out there to make them look innocent. Which we know they break wives and murder us. Right here. I'm not sure if it's a man will, but right here, this is where Israelites are sold. When they changed our names, you know, they gave us their last name. They changed our history. Now they saying everybody's the same, everybody's equal. When the Bible does not teach that. The so-called white man, woman, and child, as well as the Jewish man, the Germans, the French, the Greeks, the Dutches, they're the devils that's on the earth. That's what the Bible teaches. But it's a way you gotta read the Bible and understand the Bible. That's why a lot of people want to go to Islam. They want to go to Jehovah's Witnesses. They want to go to Baptist church. They want to be in this religion. They want to be in that religion. Because that was caused and created to cause confusion, to keep us away from knowing the truth, knowing that we Israelites. And in 1948, you had a declaration that was made with a lot of other white people. That's why we're not in Israel right now. That's our homeland. But we came over here to serve a punishment because we fell away from God. And so this is what he's going to tell you. He's going to tell you in this verse right here. It says Israel served Baalim, which is a false god. Verse 14, Judges 2 and 14. It says, and the anger of the Lord was hot against Israel, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And he delivered them into the hands of spoilers. So when you're delivered into the hands of spoilers, which God allowed it to happen, because he was angry with the Israelites. When you are delivered into the hands of the spoilers, they're going to take everything from you. You know, in the 1600s, this ain't the first time this happened. This happened before the 1600s. So during the process of time, we've been going through the same thing over and over. You know, so it says, delivered into the hands of the spoilers that spoiled them, and he sold them. See that? Into the hands of their enemies round about, so that they could no longer stand before their enemies. And that's what happened when we came out of Egypt. You know, why is America so infatuated with Egypt? Why do we in America right now have pyramids on the back of our currency? That goes to show you that God is giving you hints, warning you. You know, not just you only, but warning everybody else that this is a place to remind you what we used to do and where we came from. You know, we used to build pyramids. When I say we, our fathers, our mothers, our ancestors, you know. But now here we are in America, serving the punishment, and we forgot God. We forgot Yahweh. That's the true name of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh. And he gave us his son to have a way for us to come back to him, which his son name is Yahweh Shah. You know? Yeah. So this is what we gotta understand. I'll give you a couple more. Now this is Deuteronomy chapter 1, and verse 1. It says, these be the words which Moses spake unto all Israel on this side Jordan in the wilderness. So when we came out of Egypt, Moses had to remind us and allow us to know that, hey, the Most High God allowed those 10 plagues to overthrow the Egyptians. Your Heavenly Father allowed his power to be magnified on the earth, and he killed the firstborn of the Egyptians. You know? Why was Moses able to be in Egypt as a dark-skinned man? You know? But here, you got people saying, well, Christ is white. How is Jesus white? How is he a so-called white man when his mother and father had to flee from Herod when he was a little baby so they can, you know, escape death, you know? So they went to other dark races, you know? But when you Google Jesus Christ, you get some crazy madness, you know? Nowhere in the Bible does it say Jesus is white, you know? Let's pull this up right here. You know, that's what the Illuminati teaches. That's what white supremacy teaches. But as an Israelite, this is what we teach. We teach the truth. I'm gonna show you the truth. Now, when the Black Messiah come back to the earth, this is what he will look. I'll show you this right here. And white people don't want to admit that because why they hate us? They break, rob, and murder us. Now, when you read Revelation chapter 1, this is what it's going into. Verse 13, you know. His name is Yahweh Shah, meaning he who saves. Because our ancestors, when they was enslaved and put on those slave boats, you know, when they had them yokes on their neck, they had Hebrew names before the slave man took their names and named them their names. Because like an animal, you go to the market, you get you a cow or an animal or something. A lot of times you're gonna brand that animal. You're gonna put that hot iron and stamp it. You know, after you make that purchase. That's what the white man used to do to us. You know, took our names away, our Hebrew names, packed us on them boats like we some animals, like we some fishes in a sardine can, you know, and took everything from us. So the Lord said, hey, I'm about to remind y'all. And that's what's going on now. That's why I'm out here. You know? Because a lot of people, you ain't gonna find this. You ain't gonna find this too many places. The Christian church don't teach this. Because why? They funded by the white man. You know? That's why they take up tithes and offers. You know? Give me $100 and I give you a word. That's wicked. You know? That's the devil. You know? So you're gonna run into it, you're gonna see another Israelite brother that's gonna give you the truth. Because one thing about us, we gotta continue to love one another. Yeah. You know? And I don't have to know you to let you know who you is. Because God gave it to me free. You know? So I gotta give it to my brothers and sisters free. But you got a lot of people, they sell out. They wanna be like the white man. They wanna be like the Chinese man, Japanese man, you know. That's why we don't find too many of our people that care about one another. You look at them, you mug them, you know. But then when we see the white man, the white woman, hey, you know, now we get the feminine energy, you know. And we supposed to be strong black kings standing up, you know. So the Lord said in Deuteronomy chapter 11, these are the options that we have. And this is why we still in the conditions that we're in now. Deuteronomy 11 and 26, it says, behold, and Moses is a Haitian, by the way. If he was walking on the earth in sandals and flip-flops and still doing the same things he was doing when he was doing it 4,000 years ago, he would be known as a West Indian. And these are the regions that our people are in right now. You know, you got some in America, you got some in Ghana, you got some in the DR, Dominican Republic, but they are people though. As well as the Hispanics. That's why ICE is coming over here doing what they're doing. Why? Because they know who we are. They just continue to lie to us, so we don't know who we are. You know. So you got Issachar, which are the Mexicans. You know, you got Judah, which represents the Negro men, because this right here was a split. You know. Not only do you got Bloods and Crips killing each other right now, gangs banging against one another right now. Ain't nothing new under the sun. Back in the day, in the Bible days, we used to do the same thing. We used to kill one another. That's why God had to allow us to be remembered and judged. Hey, look, you gotta love your brother. You gotta love your sister. We used to do the same thing thousands of years ago. King David, King Saul fighting against each other. You know, because one wanted the throne, the other he wanted to do God's thing. You know, you got a lot of hatred on the earth, man. You know. That's why it starts with us. Once we get ourselves right, then we can help put this thing in line. You know? But it ain't gonna be many though. It's only gonna be a few. Few gonna be called to serve the Lord and get this earth in order. When the Black Messiah come back on the earth, and he is coming, he gonna set the earth in place. Whether you believe it or not, whether I believe it or not, it's gonna happen. Whether me and you gonna do it or not, he gonna get it done. Man, he created the earth, you know. So he gonna make sure righteousness is on the earth, you know. And he is gonna repay the white man for what he done, you know. But we can talk about that later. It's in the word. And this is how we know the white man didn't write the Bible, because in here it says he is gonna be put in slavery. He gonna be building up your kingdom, you know. But a lot of our brothers and sisters, they don't know that because they so caught up in the white man's supremacy, you know, indoctrinated with his philosophy, going to his school, being taught by him, you know. He tell a black nigga to go in there and sign a contract and to rap about killing and slinging his woman. He gonna do that. He gonna take that money and sell out. Like P. Diddy did. You know, and all them other effeminate rappers did. You know. So the Lord said, Deuteronomy 11:26, behold, I set before you this day a blessing and a curse. So right now we're under curse. You know, we're blessed as a people because we got the Spirit of God, because we look like God. You know, our complexion is the same way, our hair the same way, you know, we got swag the same way, we talk the same way the Bible is taught, but we still dealing with curses, and it's gonna tell you why. It says, a blessing if you obey the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you this day, and a curse if you will not obey the commandments of the Lord your God. So we didn't obey the commandments. So now we under curses. And what curses are we under? I'm going to read it for you. To help you explain that this is talking about your people and not them, you know. Now this is Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 15. Now these are the curses that we under. And this is how we can pinpoint who God's chosen is. You know, and some of these curses you very well are going to know, not just based on statistics, but anywhere you go on the earth, you're going to be able to see and pinpoint who these curses are on and who these curses are not on. So Deuteronomy 28:15, it says, "But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken," meaning listen unto the voice of the Lord thy God, "to observe and to do all his commandments and statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall be upon thee and overtake thee." So your child was just born not too long ago. What's one thing that you had to get your child? A birth certificate.
Oh. Yeah, so
They didn't even ask you. They brought that in that room. Sign this paper. You know. Yeah, you don't read nowhere in the Bible where our forefathers had a birth certificate. You know. But what does that mean? And where do we find it at? Now I'm gonna read this for you. Birth certificate, death certificate, paying taxes, all of those are curses. Having your slave master's last name, all that is pointed to curses. Now check this out. This is something that I just mentioned. Now it said, I'm gonna read this. This is Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 48. It says, "Therefore shalt thou serve thy enemies, which the Lord Yahweh shall send against thee in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness." So whatever we want to eat and drink, put on our body. You know, you got white people that put their names on these clothes: Givenchy, Prada, Louis Vuitton, you know, Reebok, Nike. Nike is a name after a Greek god. We ain't Greeks. You know, Adidas, you know, and even their cars. Ford is the same man that make clothes. Tom Ford. They got the Tom Ford shoes that rich people like to buy. The Chase Bank, that's a white man bank. He named that bank Wells Fargo. They got a horse and a carriage on it. What was that horse and carriage represent? That was toting slaves around. And we don't even have a mindset to think that. You know, Walmart. What is Walmart? Those are the Waltons. They help fund the slave trade, just as well as the Rothschild. You know, and a lot of people ignorant about these things. You know, the same people that are rich and still wealthy, they pass that down to their children. They funded the slave trade. You know, that our people was butt broke in. They used to make the man bend over, and a slave master used to put his rod on another black man to put fear in him. So that's why when a black man walk by a white man, you don't like to look at him. That's called PTSD, post-traumatic slave disorder. And not only did they do that, when you read stuff like this, you know, and I recommend you to get you a book like this, brother, The Black Holocaust. What's one thing that they done? We wanted to die so bad that we used to avoid eating. And they used to knock all our teeth out, put a funnel down our throat to force us to eat. Just imagine that. We jumped off the boats. We rather had got eaten by a shark or swallowed up by a whale than go to a white man plantation. You know? And these are things that our people forgot. Because they think they're living good in America now. You know? So it says, anything you want, you got to get it from your enemy. Why? Because these are curses. Because the true and living God made a covenant with you and I and our forefathers that, look, you turn away from me, I'm going to put curses on you and your children. Now your child got to go by their society instead of we went by our society. We used to have gold. You know, we used to have our own animals. Everywhere we went, the earth was ours. Everywhere our foot stepped on, that was our turf. But now we in punishment until God get us out. You know. So it says, and in want of all things. So birth certificate, degree, you know, registration for your car. You can't just up and buy a car and just go down the road and just take the car down the road. They're gonna get you. They're gonna find you. They're gonna say, hey, your car not registered. You ain't got tax, you ain't got tags on it, you know. And this is the upper echelon that put all these legislations out, you know. So it says, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck. Uh-oh, what is that? We know what that is. But who gonna do that though? Who gonna do that though? It says, let's go back to the beginning just in case, you know, we need to comprehend this. Deuteronomy 28:48, it says, therefore shalt thou serve thy enemies. So we serving our enemies now because we didn't want to serve the true and living power in the beginning. So now it says, he gonna put a yoke of iron upon thy neck. Until, how long though? Until he have destroyed thee. Now we don't see nobody with irons on their neck. And that's what they call mind games now. We don't see nobody with irons on their neck, yokes on their hands, shackles on their feet. Why? Because we're destroyed. Now we thinking we niggas. You know, now we thinking we just black people. Now we thinking we equal to everybody. When the Heavenly Father never said nobody was equal. He said these people right here are the greatest on the earth. But they teach us like we dogs. You know, and they tricked us by going to their same school. Hold on now. In the 1600s, they used to say whites over here, blacks over here. You can't drink at this water fountain. You can't go to school with the same white people. You know, and we tell them to their face all the time. Every Saturday we out here letting them know. You know, and hey, if they want to say something, they can say something. We willing to die for what we teach for. You know. Because what we teach is the truth, and we know it's the truth. And the Lord is going to reward us if we continue to endure for what we teach. You know, because why? You got to ask yourself, why did they say Christ got killed? Why did they say Peter got killed? Because they teaching the same things. You know, we tell it. You can't be a homosexual as a man. You know, your job and your role was to multiply the earth, fill the earth with God-fearing children. But the white man tell you can be effeminized. You can be a faggot. You know? That's why John the Baptist got his head chopped off. Because he told another man, there was a white man, that he can't be with that man white. So what did they do? Slew him and took his head right off. And they do that same thing. Why you think they got guillotines on the earth? Why you got guillotines on the earth right now? Because they do the same thing. You know? So it says, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. And what else? What other curses are we under? Deuteronomy 28 verse 54. I'm gonna read two more for you to allow you to know who this is. You know, because you could be looking at this sign. You could say, well, how did you come up with this? This is in the book of Revelation. You know, but they took our Bible and started making religion. You know, that's why a lot of people don't want to subscribe to this because they freaked out. You know, they indoctrinated with so many other doctrines that if they hear the truth, they won't decipher it. They never know. Well, you got this person into crystals and rocks. You got this person into shopping. You got this person into sorcery. You got that other person in the Christian church. You got the other person into another religion. You know, and that's what we deal with. That's why we gotta put this truth out here and allow it to be known. So I'm gonna give you two more. I know you gotta go. So this is Deuteronomy 28 verse 54. It says, so that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil toward his brother. So this is a curse now that we still deal with today in 2025, you know, which we're coming into 2026. It says, his eye shall be evil towards his brother. Because we once cared about each other. We once made sure we were straight, you know. Hey brother, how you doing? You good? You need anything? How your child doing? I want to help you out. I want to look out for you. You my brother. I love you. You know. But now we don't got that no more. Because these curses have overtook us. And then we instead of these curses overtaking us, we need to be saying, well look, let's break these curses. Let's do things the right way. You know, let's repent. Let's turn away from what we fell short of and come back to the true and living power. So it says your brother is going to have an evil eye toward you, and toward the wife of his bosom, and toward the remnant of his children, which he shall leave. And we well known for single parent households. Because they make a mockery of it. White people make a mockery of it. Chinese people, Japanese people. You know, we're well known for single parent households. Yeah, and more so it's coming to the fact you got not only single black women, but single black men too that's raising children. Cause the mom, she on crack, you know, she in the club, you know, she somewhere strung out. You don't see that a lot with white people. You don't see that a lot with Chinese people. You don't see that a lot with Japanese people. But we're the ones that it happens to the most. You know, and this is a curse, you know. So God said you're gonna have an evil eye toward your brother, Bloods and Crips. What race of people, what nationality is making songs about killing another man, stealing another man's woman and freaking her out and then giving back to her the next day? White people don't do that, you know. White people don't say, well, I'm a rob him and then take his woman, you know. They don't say that. This is what we do. These are our people. And this is a curse. So this is a well-known fact that this is us, you know. And not only that, you got an evil eye toward your wife, you know. Who puts on television a black man hit the black woman? Last time I checked, that was Blueface and Krishan Rock, you know. Atlanta Housewives, you know. Love and Hip Hop. You see our people up there fighting each other, you know, going to the cookout, can't get along. These are our people that we're reading about, you know. And who leads their children? Now me, I came up, my mother raised me and my two sisters. I didn't have a father in my life. So I'm a victim of that. And a lot of my cousins too. So these curses, hey, I know they play it out. They play a role in my community, you know. But hey, I went to school with a lot of white people. They didn't have to worry about that. Even if their mother and father wasn't together, they still stayed in the same house. You had the father sleep in another room, white man, and the white woman sleeping in a different room, but they somehow figured out how to make it work. You know, but God put these curses on us. And this is the last one. Deuteronomy 28:68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again. So we already came out of Egypt though. And this is Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. We came out of Egypt in Exodus. So what is this telling you? This Egypt that he's telling us that we're going to come back to is slavery. So let's get this verse right here. How we understand the Bible. We break the Bible down in the code that we got to understand it and understand it and read it in. Meaning we go to this Old Testament, we go to the New Testament, we go to this precept, we go to this precept to be able to understand it. This is Exodus chapter 20 and verse 1. It says, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee. Exodus 20 and 2. I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. So Egypt, in this context, Deuteronomy 28:68, is known as slavery. So he said, I'm going to bring you into slavery. Not, I'm going to take you back into the landmass of Egypt, but I'm going to bring you into slavery. So Deuteronomy 28:68, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. How did we get over here? By a slave boat, you know. So this is well known. Who we talking about? Who we reading about in the Bible? And this is all the way in the Old Testament, you know. Over 4,000 years ago, Moses, a so-called black man, prophesied that this was going to happen to you and I and our ancestors. So this is how we know. This is talking about us. But it didn't say black man, black woman, and child. It said Israel. You know. Our ancestors went through this. You know. So we know that will make us Israelites. It says, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. So the same way Moses prophesied that it was going to happen, before it happened, it came to pass in the 1400s and the 1600s. And it says, thou shalt see it no more again. So we ain't seen our homeland, you know. But you got the Jewish man and the Jewish woman in our homeland right now. But a lot of people don't know that, you know. They stuck on sports, BET, you know, Love and Hip Hop, you know. Who gonna get the next Jordan? You know, I gotta get that Louis Vuitton belt. That's why the white man give us so many things to keep us, you know, sleep. You know, they put all types of chemicals in our food. You know, they poison us. They switch our books up night and day. So he said, thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies. It didn't say friends. It said unto your enemies. For bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. And so no man is going to redeem us and get us out of this condition but the true and living Father, which he's going to send his son back. And a lot of people don't believe that because they think it's a fetish, you know. But the same way you can have dreams is the same way God can do anything else. Anything else. And he can send his son back to get all of this in order. And that's what's going to happen, you know. So, hey, look. I don't know how much more time you got, but we are the Israelites. Fishermen for Zion. We got a YouTube channel. We got an Instagram. You know, you got questions. You know, we encourage you to bring your questions to the Instagram, DM us, and we encourage you to go to the YouTube channel to get our teaching on your time. You know, you might work, you know, all type of hours. You know, as a man, you got a child, so your time schedule could be a little different. So on your leisure, on your time, you can look into the, you know, the teachings, you know, get more understanding, and get more familiar with it, because this is new to you, you know. But quite frankly, you are Israelite. You know, do you come from any one of these tribes? Now on your left hand, this is what your heavenly Father calls you, Yahweh. On your right hand, this is what the government calls you. And it's based on your father. So it don't matter if your mother is a purple woman. We don't teach skin doctrine. It goes based on your father, the seed line of your father. Because guess what? You had to meet a woman in order to bring forth that child, right? So your seed line predominates and determines what your child is. So if your woman that you laid down with was a white woman, guess what? It doesn't matter. What matters is you. Same thing that happened with you and your father. So if your father is known as an American Negro, guess what? And his grandfather is known as American Negro, guess what? That makes you a Judite, which we call it a Judite, which you from the tribe of Judah. You know, now I'm Native American, so I'm from the tribe of Gad. But we all still Israelites at the end of the day. And our nation is Israel. But you got tribes as far as the portion of the land that you was given, and as far as the lot, meaning certain requirements that God requires of you. And the tribe of Judah is the top tribe. That's the tribe Christ is from. You know? And that's very important. That's very beautiful. You know? So where you at, brother? You know? Where you at?
What you mean by where I'm at?
What's your tribe? Based on your, you know, a lot of us don't know our father.
It'll be Gad and it'll be Judah.
Okay, your mother and father?
I got both of them.
So your father's from he's known as American Negro?
Yes.
So that would make you tribe of Judah. You know? What that means is you a Jew. I'm not a Jew. This is the Southern Kingdom. 1, 2, and 3 is known as the Southern Kingdom. And why this is a difference is because King Solomon, which the most richest man that ever walked the earth, King Solomon, he had 1,000 wives. And that's one thing that Israelites was able to do. You know, we was able to have multiple women as long as that woman doesn't have another man. You know, so it's no such thing as a black man cheats. That come from a Western society, which this is a Westernized society. That's why they only want you to have one woman. That's why they want you to sign that paperwork. Do you take this woman to be your wife? Do you take this man to be your husband? That comes from a Western society. But Israelites, we was known for having a lot of women, you know. So it doesn't matter what you, because guess how these 12 men had to come about. Jacob had multiple women. And according to the Bible, when you have sex with a woman, that's your wife. I'm going to read something to you right quick. This is Genesis chapter 24. This is Genesis chapter 24, and I'm starting at verse 66. And the servant told Isaac all things that he had done. And Isaac brought her. Now Isaac, this is the time period after his mother died. Now when your mother dies, what's something that happens? You're in mourning. You know, you going through it. You stressed out. You know, you need to be comforted. So what did Isaac do? It says this is Genesis 24:67. And Isaac brought her into his mother's Sarah's tent and took Rebekah. And she became his wife, and he loved her. And Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. So what does it mean he took her? It means he had sex. And then it said, and then she became his wife. So according to the Bible, the world ain't gonna teach you what the Bible teaches, because the world doesn't want to be truthful. It want to continue to be evil. You know, that's why you got hidden sex islands. That's why you see so many children getting raped, robbed, and murdered. That's why you see so many women coming up missing. Because these white people, these devils, they wicked. You know, that's why they want to, you know, study your body so they can take your organs. Why you think so many white people live long? The ones that got a lot of them. I'm talking about billionaires and trillionaires. Because they stealing our organs. Because we're made different. You know, that's why we can't eat pork. You know, there's something I'm supposed to give you. I'm supposed to show you the commandments as well. You know, we commanded not to eat pork. Because that animal was created to cleanse the earth. But what did? They took a trash company that take money away from us, and then we throw our trash in the trash can. When a pig's job is to eat the trash of the earth. That's why you see on these television shows like Power, when they throw bodies in the water, in the rivers, and in the ocean, what happens in that water? Those sea bottoms clean that up. That's why we're not supposed to eat shrimp, crab, lobster, shark, oysters. You're supposed to only eat stuff that you can cleanse. If it has a scale and a fin on it, you can cut those fins off, you can cut those scales off, and you can properly cleanse it. But you can't cleanse the shrimp. Fish, they don't eat dead bodies, like bass and stuff like that. Catfish do. But the shrimp and the oysters, it's a filter for the water. And then what's the filter on the earth? A pig. That's why we're not supposed to eat that. And then when we eat that, what happens? We get high blood pressure, gout. That's because God's judging us. He didn't give this to white people, to Chinese people. And what do Chinese people do? They put that stuff in their food and then sell it to us. If you ever wonder, when you go into a Chinese restaurant, hopefully you don't, you know, but after this, I hope you stop. But if you ever go into a Chinese restaurant, they don't eat the food that they sell. They eat something different. And I used to always, before I stopped eating that food, it had to be like 8 years ago. I haven't ate no pork in almost 8 years, or Chinese food. But when I used to go into them Chinese restaurants, this before I knew who I was. I used to look, and I was like, why they not eat the food that they giving us? You know, and what you got to think about that too. Why these top-notch rich people that want us to die? Because you need to look into something called the Georgia Guidestones too. The elites, the Illuminati, they only want so many people on the earth. They want the population to be under 500,000. You gotta ask yourself that. Why is that? How they gonna do that? How they gonna have 500,000 people on the earth? Well, I'll tell you how they gonna do it. Vaccines, the food that they feeding us, the chemtrails that they putting out. You wake up in the morning and you see them airplanes shooting stuff out in the sky. You like, what in the world is that coming out of that plane? That's called chemtrails. That's how we get sick. You come out here, it's a beautiful day today. You don't even know what you're breathing in. And once it gets to a certain altitude, it can spread so much throughout the air. And now you're breathing in poison, you know, all type of chemicals. They shoot it in your chicken, they shoot it in your beef, they shoot it in your chicken nuggets. You know, they put it in McDonald's, they put it in Burger King, you know. Now people don't even realize this, you know. So we gotta come back to God. Yahweh. Yahweh Shah. Say Yahweh. Yahweh. Say Yahweh Shah. And that's our power right there. You know. So we gotta get back to praying, we gotta get back to fasting, we gotta get back to getting in this word, because guess what's coming? The end. Which is the white man's rulership. That's the end of the world. You know. That's the end of the world. And the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American rulership is next. You know. That's the end of the world. I'm gonna read that for you right here. So the end of the world really means the end of a rulership. Now this is the pocket. Now this is what the Catholics took out of the Bible, which is completed 16 or 11. So this is one thing that they did. They took a lot of these prophecies out of the Bible because they didn't want us to read them, and they didn't want us to know what the truth actually is. Now I mentioned to you earlier Esau. Esau is the biblical race of white people, which is Edom. Like they got different, like we got different tribes. They got different tribes too. They got the Irish, they got the French, you know, they got the Romans, they got the Greeks, you know, they got the small hats that are in Israel right now. It's just a different tribe. So white people are known as Esau, and we're known as Jacob. So this is a prophecy that hasn't came to pass yet. You know, that's one thing can't nobody manipulate when it comes to this word, when it comes to this Bible. You can't negate prophecy, because that's something that was told to happen a long time ago, and some things had happened. Like we went into slavery, that already took place. But you got a lot of other things like World War III, missiles coming to the earth. And that's how this society is going to be broken up. That's how this society is going to be able to release their hands off of us. You know, just like God used water to destroy the entire earth with Noah and the flood, fire is going to be a way that God is going to be able to bring his people back to righteousness. So this is 2 Andrew chapter 6 and verse 8. It says, and he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born. And you can read about Jacob and Esau in Genesis 25th chapter. It says, when Jacob and Esau were born, of him Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. So when Isaac, you know, had impregnated his wife after she couldn't have a baby, you had two nations in his wife's womb, which makes up so-called black people, and the other makes up so-called white people. But before Genesis 25th chapter, you didn't have no such thing as no white people. Everybody was dark melanated. But this was a mark that was put on them due to the same thing that Cain did to Abel. In the beginning, when you read the Bible, Cain killed Abel. And God said he was going to put a mark on Cain, and that mark was now put on Esau when he came out of the womb. So a lot of people would say, technically we are brothers. But God did that in a way to show us that you can't mess with his people. You know? He always going to get back with you. And so guess what? White people ain't been judged yet for rape, robbing, and murder. They still thriving. You know? They still rich and wealthy. They still got their people on the $100 bill. They still got their people on the $50 bill. We ain't got our own currency. You know? But that's coming. That's a day coming where white people gonna get judged for what they done, and they will be slaves in the kingdom of heaven. You know, that's why we recommend you to learn the true doctrine. You know, because this society don't teach what we teach. You know, they teach that you gonna be in the sky floating with a halo and some wings. No, the kingdom of heaven is gonna be on earth. You know, we got chariots that are gonna come save us. You know, but the white men say it's aliens up there. That's why they got in the Independence Day movie out there with Will Smith in to take away the truth. And now you got people thinking, oh my God, aliens. No, they're angels. You know, a lot of people can't believe this stuff. They think it's a fantasy because the white men lie to us so much. You know, just look around you. All of this evil wickedness. How old are you, brother? About 27?
24.
24? Mm-hmm. 24 years angels been around you, protecting you. Ain't no telling what you went through in your life. Shootouts, God protecting you from, being robbed, because you got an angel around you. and you don't even know him, because we can't see him. You know. And they gonna come on the earth to protect us if we're the elect. Because this thing is about the elect first. And what does the elect mean? The elect means God reserved, before he created the earth, he reserved a certain amount of people to worship him and believe in him. Versus you got people that are Satanists, that worship Satan, you know. That's how God get down. He got a measuring stick. He's a balanced God. You know, it ain't just all righteous, good people on the earth. That will make him imbalanced. You know, that will make him unequal. But he's a God of equality. It's a measuring stick that's balancing everything. You got righteousness on the earth and you got evilness on the earth. So finishing this up, I know you got to go. It says 2 Ezra 6 and verse 9. It says, for Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of his fall. So their rulership is coming to the end, and our rulership is at the end. All right? Got any questions? Show? All right, so check it out, brother.
I'll definitely hit that.
Yeah, hit the Instagram up, and subscribe to that YouTube if you don't mind.
Of course.
So you can continue to get the teaching. You know, and so the
right
days of the Sabbath, you know, we teach that the Sabbath day we gotta abstain from work if we can, you know, because we understand we're still enslaved. We gotta pay taxes. We gotta take care of our children. I got 5 of them, you know. So I understand how it is, you know. My oldest is 11, my youngest is 2, you know. So I understand how it is. So we gotta do the best our ability to keep God's laws and His commandments. You know, if you can, you're in the military, so we understand that the military persuades you to shave your beard off, but according to God's commandment, you know, that's a sin. And I'm gonna read that for you real quick. I'm gonna read one Bible verse for you. One law, because this is how these laws are given to show our love to God and how much we love God. Meaning, if the Bible tells me to not steal, I can't steal. You know, that's something I gotta do. I gotta make an honest living. You know, it don't matter if I ain't got no money or not. What I'm supposed to, if I get to that point and I ain't got no money, I gotta call on God. I gotta call on Yahweh and Yahweh Shah and pray to Him. You know, and there's videos on our channel to show you how to pray too. Because a white man, you can't believe everything he says. You know, he say, you know, just hold your hands together and just, dear Heavenly Father. We can't believe the white man no more. Now we found out he's a devil, he's a liar. So now we gotta come back to the truth. So this is Leviticus chapter 19. And mine a little packed, you know. But guess what? I'm keeping the commandment. You know? And I got my fringes on. So this is also a commandment too. And you go to Numbers 15 to 38, 39. So this is Leviticus chapter 19 and verse 27. It says, ye shall not round the corners of your head. So right here I already got to highlight it. It says ye shall not round the corners of your head. So even though we got, you know, bald spots, we still gotta, you know, either you're gonna cut it close or don't do nothing to it at all. Because you showing God you love Him. You shall not round the corners of your head. So don't get the Michael Jordan. Neither shalt thou mar the corners of thy beard. Because that's what the Egyptians used to do. You know? So we can't do what other nations do. We gotta do what God told us to do. Alright? Alright, what's your name? Hosea.
Hosea?
Yeah. Alright, here every Saturday, brother. Every Saturday. Even if you can't catch me, you know, and we got other brothers too, you can always tune into the channel. Alright? Tune into the flyer. You know. Alright. If we love you, man, hey, if you need anything, you need some diapers or some wipes or something, just hit our IG up, brother. We love our people, man. We really about what we say we about. If you need anything, brother, don't be proud for me. You know? Because, hey, I still got baby clothes. If you need something, brother, if you falling on hard times, hit the IG up, you know. Just message me like, hey, I'm the brother y'all talk to, you know. Is there any way y'all can help me out, you know? And we gonna come together, and our church gonna come together, and we gonna make sure you get what you need, brother. You and your household, all right? All right, now we love you, brother. What's your name?
KJ.
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 KJ?
Yeah.
Now what's your nationality?
Judah.
Judah, that's your tribe. But what's your nation? Israel. Say I'm an Israelite.
Israelites.
So you and your daughter, y'all Israelites. And that's a role and a duty on earth, all right? You gotta allow your light to shine. So take your time, be patient, learn, get in your word. You know, if you need a Bible, we can get you a Bible, brother. You know, we can get you a apocryphal, we can get you a holy Bible so you can get study. We can send you some links, we can send you some stuff. You know, we can make sure everything works out in your favor for you and your family, all right? So don't forget now, hit the IG up, hit the YouTube up, and stay tapped in with us, all right?
All right.
All right, brother.
Y'all bless me, man.
Israelites. This is the book of Hosea. Praise you. How about you know shot? This is the book of Hosea, chapter 2, and verse 14. It says, "Therefore, behold, I will allure her and bring her into the wilderness and speak comfortably unto her." So our people need to be spoke comfortably to, man. You never know where we come from or what we're dealing with, you know. What we seen or what we heard, man. You know, we got to be spoken comfortably to. That's how the Most High get down. He will allow things to be made manifested. Equal it out in a balance. It says, "And speak comfortably unto her, and I will give her vineyards from thence in the valley of Achor for a door of hope." So that valley of Achor is known as trouble, you know, because we done been through so much trouble. You know, we done seen so much trouble on all sides. As in the day when she came up out of the land of Egypt, so-called black Spanish and Native Americans are Israelites, living in the last days, patiently waiting on the black Messiah. It says, "As in the day when she came up out of the land of Egypt, and it shall be at that day, said the Lord Yahweh, that thou shalt call me Ishi, and shalt call me no more Baal." So we gonna call the Most High husband, and we no longer gonna call him like we used to call on a false idol, man. You know, things is gonna be made new again through the Spirit and the power of Yahweh Shah. You know, this is the book of Isaiah chapter 26 and verse 3. We're gonna read it. Isaiah chapter 26 and verse 3. It says, "Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusted in thee." And that's what we gotta do. We gotta continue to trust in the Lord. We gotta build that trust up. We gotta build that faith up, man. We gotta build that hope up. You know, contend for the faith. You know, trust in the Lord Yahweh forever, for in the Lord Yahweh is everlasting strength.